Kia ora koutou whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hairy News. Kia ora, Big Hairy Chewy. How are you?
Kia ora, Pat. It's Monday. It's Monday. And you know what Monday means? Yeah, traditional hour and a half, 2 hours, God knows how long show.
Well, I don't think there was a Q&A in the weekend. So when there's no Q&A...
Oh, okay.
I don't think so.
Well,
I mean,
we might be in and out.
And thanks for joining us tonight. I looked on YouTube and there was no clip, so I'm assuming there wasn't one. But yay, it's Monday. I'm a bit of a Garfield when it comes to Mondays. You know, I hate Mondays. Although I don't really. It's lots of fun what we do. How's your weekend? Exciting?
What did I do? No, I played it pretty quiet this weekend. This coming weekend, I'm heading up to Christchurch for a bit, catch up with friends and family. I currently have an old flatmate of mine from my Wellington days is around visiting, and her and Claire are just so. If you hear any shrieks and giggles and that sort of thing, they're catching up. So yeah, good times.
Very, very good. Yes. And other than that, I'm assuming you, much like me, are doing everything you can to avoid COVID in Dunedin at the moment, because every third person...
it is bad. So my workplace is relatively small. There's like say 7 of us. 3 are down with COVID as of today. And we had a staff dinner last Thursday, didn't we? So at the moment, I'm hoping I'm
dodged it.
I can ducking it, doing a couple of rat tests every now and then.
But you're feeling all right? Okay.
I feel fine.
Yeah, right.
I feel fine, but it's just one of those things when you're like, oh shit, 3 of you are out.
Yeah.
God damn.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is we'd usually have 4 staff. We've got 2.
As you said, going to Christchurch this weekend, both you and I, it's birthday week. So, that would suck to get it and not be able to kind of go. I'm wondering how we're going to logistically treat it next time it comes into the house. You know, are people, and I know that you're different because it's you and your wife, but here we've got like a couple of boarders, me, a couple of kids from time to time, and my partner. It's like back in the early days when we got it, people were isolating to their rooms and sort of being careful around it and not crossing paths. I wonder what we'll do. Like, this is me wondering out loud. I had a chat with a mate the other day. He's a fairly scientific sort of a guy, and he talked about the importance of getting a vaccine for the early ones, because you wanted to get the vaccine before you caught it to protect your lungs a little more. It was better. But I know it's not the cold, but when people say they're treating it like a cold now, meaning it's going to be around, it's going to be once a year, lots of people are going to get it. And do we still isolate and keep everyone as locked away as we were? Or do we just put up with the fact? Although people are still dying from COVID.
Yeah. So it's interesting to bring that up. Me and my colleagues still standing at the moment, we're talking about that. And, you know, we were talking about how, like, there's no mandated time. You've got to stay away. It's all, like, guidelines and that sort of stuff. And then the conversation turned to, like, well, you know, it should be treated like all illness. And we kind of went, aha, there's the rub, right? After COVID, when we had so much discussion about the fact that if you're symptomatic, if you feel sick, you should stay away and not spread it to everybody else, close your bubble, all of that sort of stuff. That was the lesson to learn, right?
Sorry, close your bubble sounds like some kind of filthy act you do in the bedroom. Oh, close your bubble. I don't need to see. Hey, no, put it away. Close your bubble. Anyway, sorry.
That was the lesson to learn, right? Is that you don't have to be a fucking brave soldier and go to work and make all your colleagues sick. You stay away from work until you're well. Unfortunately, I think the lesson that has been learned is the opposite of that, in that COVID is the same as any illness now, and, you know, just go back to work. You know, you don't want to use up all your sick leave.
It's
No.
not the same because the hospitality rate, the hospital rate, a hospitalizing rate is so much higher. Like someone's already said in the chat, oh, but people die from cold as well. But it's not to the same standard. It's like going, people die when you're on a motorbike, and people die when you're on a motorbike doing 190 in the 50s, and they're both on the motorbike, but they bring different outcomes more often. I guess I'm just talking out loud. If Anna Brooks was watching, she'd probably be screaming at us because we shouldn't be talking like this. But I guess I'm living in a real world and going, how are we going to deal with it? Like one of my kids is at secondary school, one's at university. It probably will come into the house at some stage, and how will we then treat it? Don't know.
I mean, the anecdotal story I had here from Dunedin is that there's a rest home that has a lot of COVID at the moment. And that came into that space because someone that works in the laundry came to work sick and just went, well, I'm not dealing with the residents, I just wash the clothes.
Right.
And the conversation is, but you move throughout the facility to get the laundry, and you use the staff room, and you use the facilities there. And look, a week later, we've all got COVID in an old folks home. It's nobody's learned the lessons. Nobody's learned the lesson. Just don't be a brave soldier. Stay home. Overall, that is better for the business because you don't have one person making 4 people sick that make 16 people sick.
And they tell 2 friends, and so on, and so on, and so on. It does, and David says the Herman Cain Award is alive and well. Is that the what did it used to be called? The one where people fall off buildings pulling their pants down.
The Darwin Award.
Darwin Award. Is that the same thing?
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's the way to now talk about this politically, because you're talking about stay home, is that and we're not doing this tonight. This is just a general chat for the start of the show. But if you did then want to talk it and bring it into like legislative conversations, the current government is talking about reducing a bunch of part-timers with their sick leave. So therefore, less sick leave, more pressure to come back to work, more pressure to spread. Forget COVID. Well, don't forget it, but in this whatever you've got around. So there is an element of this which could be turned into a political conversation as well. But anyway, look. Also, I was going to say, have you seen The Whale yet?
The Whale?
The movie The Whale. Brendan Fraser. Won the Oscar for it?
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Sorry, did you think I meant a whale out in the harbour?
Oh, I thought there was fucking Free Willy in the harbour. I didn't know about. But
easy.
No, it's less exciting.
Sheesh. You and your little terms. I saw The Whale in the weekend for the first time. You've seen it, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Amazing.
A while ago now, but I remember there being a bit of this. Well, there was a couple of lines of conversation around it. Brendan Fraser's performance being incredible, and him coming back from just the bad times that he's been going through.
Yeah.
And then there was a discussion about, they put someone in a fat suit and maybe that's not sensitive and that sort of thing. And
they're not really astronauts. They're not really astronauts either. They're not really astronauts. They're pretending to be. They're not really in space. They're pretending. Sorry, keep going, Judy.
But yes, absolutely, that movie is a carpet bombing for your feelings.
That last
real
scene.
tearjerker. Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot. I won't go spoilers. It's too new to go spoilers.
It's one of those fantastic movies that I really, really rate.
Yeah,
but will literally never watch again.
I was quite interested to know that it came from a stage show to a movie. So, of course, I then did a bit of research over the weekend looking up some of the stage show clips because you can find them online. And, Brendan Fraser won the Oscar for it, and he's ruined the stage show. Like, I've watched with my kids Hamilton 3 or 4 or 5 times, and we've had the music going on, last year, all day, every day. I feel like if I went and saw a performance of Hamilton now, it would be weird because I'm like, you're doing that part, you're pretending to do that part that Lin-Manuel Miranda did. It would feel weird because I've accustomed to that. I think watching The Whale on stage would be strange because, you're not going to have the same kind of close-up. You're not going to have the same kind of fat suit. Oh, my goodness. All these things aren't going to be there. And it just made me think again, what a performance that was. And for me, to be really honest, at my heaviest, I was up close to 200 kilos. 200 kilos is like 440 pounds, and he was supposedly 600 pounds. So I was never at that stage, but, you know, there but for the grace of God and a certain trajectory, you know, in 10 years now with something going wrong in my life, that could have been there. So it was, there was a bit more to it than just watching it as well. So, but it was a pretty incredible movie. If you haven't seen it, team, it's well worth a watch. It's not a happy watch, but it's well worth a watch. It's pretty freaking awesome. Pretty good movie. It's one of those great movies. You know when like you walk out of The Joker, you go, oh, geez, that was a great movie that I hated.
That's the other movie that's in my mind.
Yeah,
Absolutely love that movie. Excellent film. We'll not watch it again.
Yeah. All right, guys. Lots going on tonight. We are going to be talking about, I'm wondering, and we don't have an answer to this yet, Chewy, but there's news out at the moment that there is a fund for former gang members to get tattoos removed from their face and hands, gang-affiliated tattoos, and it's about to run out of money. Now, what I'm interested to find out about is this government, again, has identified the problem, you know, gang insignia. They have the way to offer a part of a solution. Will they continue the funding? Or will they go, not giving money to gang members? So we're going to have a look at that story. It's not a big story. We'll have a look at it, and we'll have a chat over that. Also, Chloe Swarbrick was on breakfast this morning with Shane Jones. And I have to say, Shane Jones has, I think, confirmed again another broken promise, pardon me, from this government, another broken promise around renewable energy. Now, you know, when you create a headline, you speak in absolutes. I guess we can't say absolutely are they not going to do it, but when asked directly by Chloe Swarbrick, are you going to do this? He wouldn't answer it. So it looks to me like the beginnings of another broken promise. And also, you know, we asked Chris Hipkins about this 6 days ago. The Prime Minister has announced an independent inquiry into Te Pāti Māori and the census information. Have a look at that. And if we get time as well, I mean, there's one other thing which I actually think is a huge worldwide story that doesn't seem to be getting a lot of press in New Zealand, and that's Benny Gantz, I think his name is. Benny Gantz, who was kind of Netanyahu's right-hand man, who's just basically gone, enough is enough, Netanyahu, and he's pulling out. I actually think that's a huge story, and it doesn't seem to be getting a lot of press, and it's all based around this event in the weekend where Israel rescued 4 hostages, and in the process,
I want to talk about that if
killed
we can.
Hundreds of civilians in doing it. And look,
I've been looking at that story over the weekend, and it's look, add it to your war crime bingo card, and we can talk about that when we get to it later on in the show. But it's made me furious, unsurprisingly.
It's one of those things that, and like, I mean, I don't think we're doing this as sort of you know, gotcha or anything. What do you call it? Clickbait. But we kind of felt that Ukraine and the conflict there took a bit of a backseat far too quickly, and we've kind of made a bit of a pledge to keep this in the forefront of our minds. But this decision by Gantz is huge. It would be like Kamala Harris going, I can't stand beside Joe Biden anymore, I'm out of here. You know? Sort of. That sort of level. But basically someone who was involved in what many around the world would describe as war crimes, then walking away because for that person, it went a bit far. So yeah, it's a pretty massive story. But look, I'll tell you what, I really do. I really think that's one of the biggest stories in the world at the moment, and I don't know why it's not getting more press, because it absolutely should be. Well, actually, I kind of do know why it's not getting more press, and it should be. Let's have a look at this one to start off with, though, because here's a conversation. I've just got like 3 or 4 clips, but they're all like 30-second clips about a former gang member, Te Kahui, who went on breakfast this morning to talk about his gang tattoos. If you've seen the thumbnail, you've seen a picture of him. And here's a conversation that they're having, first getting his story.
The fund to help former prisoners remove gang-related hand and face tattoos is almost depleted. The $100,000 that was allocated was supposed to last 3 years, but it's been so popular, just $27,000 is left. For more, we're joined by 2 people who are part.
So that's a good thing, yeah? Like, former gang members wanting to get rid of their tattoos, sort of everything that this government has stood up and down about and said, you know, you can wear makeup. Yeah, well, they can wear makeup, but they could also get rid of them, something that this government should support. Now, but just being straight up, we don't know if they are or they aren't yet. We're not casting aspersions, but just going an incredibly successful program with positive outcomes needs some help.
Part of the scheme, tattoo removist Helena Carter and one of her clients, former gang member Te Kahui Kani. Morena to you both.
Kia ora, Dan.
Kia ora. Te Kahui, I want to start with you. What does it mean to have your facial tattoos removed?
Oh, bro, it's like, it just unlocks a whole lot of new doors in there that were closed off because I come from a place that had no options. So it's giving me a future and a future for my kids in there, pretty much, yeah.
When was the first tattoo that you got on your face?
First one on my face was in 2017. I got this one here done. Yeah, and then as my career went on, as you can see, I went a bit extreme. Yeah.
So they're the tattoos, and the conversation goes on, asking the tattoo remover about the funding in general, and this is what she's got to say.
It's definitely helped. A lot of people, unfortunately, when they get out of jail, just don't have money, right? It's simple. And I don't charge a lot. I love doing this work, and so even when there's no funding, I don't charge a lot. But if you don't have the money, then there's nowhere to go with that.
So the conversation goes on, and I'm just going to go through these because, as you see, they're pretty short clips there, Chewy. You know, it's appropriate to pose the question, what would you say to people who say taxpayers shouldn't be funding it? It's an appropriate question to ask in an interview. I would ask that in an interview. This is the response from Te Kahui.
I believe everyone deserves a second chance, you know. You know, just like I was saying before, you know, some people might be sitting there thinking, well, why did you get it done in the first place? I come from a little town called Wairau, and there's not much options there for us. You know, everywhere you look around, this is what you got to look forward to. So yeah, bring myself to a place with more opportunities in there. I've just opened up my eyes, and yeah, I think the best way I can help myself and my people is by opening more doors.
And the last clip we're going to play, Chewy, is asking again Te Kahui, and I believe that the tattoo removers jumps in on this as well. You know, what if you were speaking now? There's been no announcement made. Make this clear again. There's been no announcement made that there's not going to be continued funding, right? But the funding is running out. This government's probably going to say the last government left a fiscal cliff for this funding, meaning it's to the end of the funding. So if you were speaking to the people, and you were going to talk to the guys and girls who are the people to make the decisions on the funding, what would you say?
I'd say to them, fund it. Because you know you're going to give us, instead of having a problem there and not doing anything about it, do something about it. Because there's people out here who actually want the help. You know, there's some people out there who might muck around, but there are some genuine people out here who really want it and they really need it.
Lots of people apply for the funding, but there's just not enough, right? And when you think about the numbers, it costs $100,000 plus to keep someone in jail for a year. And they're offering $100,000 for, what was it, 2-3 years?
I believe it's $190,000 per year for a prisoner.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, let's not be the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. Let's make this happen, give people the opportunity.
There you go. So that's pretty much the story in a nutshell, Chewy. Sounds like a really effective program, getting results needed, and it's running out of money. Again, this is not a beat-up national because there's been no announcement whether they would or wouldn't fund it as far as I know. This is just a really interesting story and a success story from people, as we keep getting told by this national government, wanting to put gang life behind them, Joey.
Yeah. That fellow there just describes exactly what it is like when you get further and further into the gang. Your options narrow. You know, at the point where you're getting facial tattoos with mob logos and that sort of thing, it's not like you can go and do something else.
Yeah.
You're not going to pick up a job at the local Subway. You know, that's it. And if they want to be serious, if the government wants to be serious about getting people away from the gangs, one of the things that they need to do is make that a possibility. Like, it doesn't matter if that guy puts on a suit and a tie and polishes up his CV and walks in. The moment he walks into a job, no way. You know, I'm not trusting you near the till. I'm not trusting you near the customers. That's it. See you later. Cool. So he still has to put food on the table for his kids. Back to the gang edits. They don't care about these tats. In fact, it puts me ahead of some people. So if they want people away from the gangs, they have to help them do that.
Yeah, because just on the back of what you're saying, the job interview scenario. So, you know, you put a little bit of money, and look, you probably can't see that, but I've got it. My old wedding band was tattooed on. It hurts like a mother to get it taken off, and that's nothing. But I know what it can cost, and I mean, to get this taken off, ironically, it's probably going to cost a total of about $1,000, like 10 sessions at $90 a session, sort of thing. Now, this is nothing compared to that, but let's say those tats cost. Well, if there's 100,000 and they're doing it on the cheap, maybe $5,000 to take off. How easy is it to then add up $5,000 on a benefit because you can't get a job even though you're trying, or to look after someone else in prison because, as you say, Chewy went straight back into a life of crime and because they couldn't get a job. So it's actually an investment for the future, and the government keeps talking to us about that, about an investment for the future, about good outcomes, about helping people out of crime, helping people out of gangs. We're not slamming the government because they haven't done anything, but if they don't just add to this is sort of the backup to their promise, you know, no more patches in public, cover up tattoos. Okay, how about remove tattoos? That'll be even better. And so we'll see how that pans out, though.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, as we've seen, the government is quite happy to cut like nickel and dime policies that are cost effective and aren't a big line item and that sort of thing, but then give billions of dollars to landlords and that sort of thing. So again, it's that consistent thing. You know, we'll give them to mining companies, we'll give it to landlords, and we'll talk tough on crime, tough on gangs. But here is a program that works. And I think, look, I know of studios that if someone walked in with a swastika on their face and they went, I want to get rid of this, you are talking absolute bargain basement prices.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, man, we will help that. Get that shit off your face. No worries. You know, so I don't think anybody's rorting the system. And it's certainly not easy to get, like, as you're saying, Pat, it's not easy to get a tattoo removed.
It's far.
Like, it sounds easy, right? Like, it's a laser and it goes away.
Far more painful getting it taken off. Far more painful getting it taken off every single time. More painful, and you got to get it done. I mean, like, it's going to be 6 to 10 sessions to get mine finished.
Yeah.
I imagine the face at the moment. I think they said every 3 months for 5 years. So that's 4 times a year. So that could be 20 visits for him, his whole face. I'm just like, bro, much respect if you can do it. And they said in that interview as well, which I didn't play, because normally people go in and they'll get the forehead done. He got his whole face done in the first session, whole thing. And even she was like, bro, we don't normally see this. So it's pretty. I hope
it sounds committed to me.
Yeah, that's another good point. You can't really, step away from his desire to do the same. Anything in the chat we want to get to? I think there's a super chat there about. I think it's about more about COVID. But there's anything in the chat or the super chat we want to get to? We can mention the COVID
absolutely.
one now.
So it's in the ballot with a $5 super chat. Thank you very much. It's because hot-headed managers know more about their sick employees than the employee and their doctor combined, and often say come to work anyway. Yeah. So I mean, the conversation that I was talking about there, I was actually having it with my boss. Now, I've mentioned my boss a couple of times. He does not fit in this category, but that's my workplace. I'm lucky there. There are places that are like, come on, like, you know, old school to just tough it out and you're letting everybody down and you're fucking me around, and you know, if you don't turn up, then stick your job sort of thing. You know, it's short-term thinking, and it's lessons not learnt. So yeah, and now that we don't have any mandates around isolating for COVID, it is up to the individual worker and the individual workplace. And in a lot of cases, that means that the power is with the workplace.
Yeah.
And
do you think
that's how you spread this shit around?
Here's a question for you, right? You may not know the answer to this, but what do you think? Like, if one of your workers had used up all their sick leave, and so they caught COVID, and it was best for the workplace and for them to stay at home, do you reckon your workplace would still pay them even if they weren't due, or is that above anyone's station in the premise you're on?
I don't think we've really, like, I haven't got an example of that. I don't think anybody's quite got there yet.
Yeah.
But I think there's, from the discussion that I had with my manager, there's certainly no pressure there. They're expecting those workers to stay away for 7 days.
Yeah, wow.
And
that's
we'll
typically
just,
5 sick
we'll
days.
just deal with it. Yeah,
that's typically, because that'll be at least a Monday to Friday or a Tuesday.
5 out of the 10 that people have.
Yeah.
Per year, and you know, I think that's pretty reasonable. Like I'd be wary of the government like coming at sick leave again so soon after a pandemic. I'm sure it's on their checklist. Yeah.
Raywin says, my brother got COVID and his work rang him and told him it was okay to come to work. I just don't see, I can't see it, eh? I can't see it.
It was 4 years ago. And we've learned nothing.
Yeah. But it's also
absolutely nothing.
If I was running a group of staff and someone came with COVID, and if it was going to be a real stretch to get through the week without that one person, I think I'd still go, but if you come in and infect all the others, it's going to be a real crap 5 or 6 weeks as we go down one by one by one. So let's just suck it up for this week and let that person get well. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't have to pay the bills, so maybe there's different questions for some people. Hey, let's go and have a look at this. I actually haven't seen this story yet. I was going to play the TVNZ story, but I realised I've got like 3 other stories from TVNZ, so I'll play the. So we all get to watch this together for the first time. I'll play the News Hub version of the story. The Prime Minister has announced an independent inquiry into Te Pāti Māori census data allegations. I did watch the TVNZ clip, and they did say on that John Tamihere was welcoming the inquiry because there is nothing to see here. That was what he said on that channel. We'll see if they pick it up on this one.
The Prime Minister has just announced an independent inquiry into allegations that census data was used to help Te Pāti Māori's 2023 election campaign.
Christopher Luxon made the announcement at his post-cabinet press conference this afternoon. Zane Small has the details.
I'd like to understand how, I mean, I'm not saying it can't, I'm saying because I don't understand how knowing census information can help you in a campaign. I mean, I'm thinking this out loud as I'm saying it. So shout out in the chat, because if I know how many people live in my area, if I've got details on them, how does that make it that I can vote? They can vote more for me? Maybe targeted advertising or something? Not sure. See if the story covers that. Unless you can think of anything, Joey.
Not off the top of my head, but I mean, that's one of the things. That's why you should have an inquiry into it. And my understanding is that Te Pāti Māori have welcomed it. So, you know. And
just to be clear, I'm not offering a defence for Te Pāti Māori. I'm just trying to think about if I knew how many, pensioners were in my area, how would that help me get votes? I don't know yet. Maybe this will actually give us all the answers and I should shut up and we should just push play.
It was here at Manurewa Marae, where former staff claimed census data was copied and used to help Te Pāti Māori's 2023 election campaign. Now the Prime Minister has ordered an independent investigation.
I have directed the Public Service Commission to initiate.
I wonder if, much like the Kāinga Order independent investigation, what it means is they will not talk to Te Pāti Māori. Remember that? That was when they had that independent and it was described by, I think by the Bish as independence, meaning we won't be talking to Kāinga Order. So I wonder if this independence one will be make sure they have nothing to do with Te Pāti Māori. Just being a little bit facetious there. I think the independent inquiry is a good idea because it'll straighten it out. But I am just being a bit facetious.
An independent inquiry into the safeguards that government agencies had in place to protect people's personal data in the circumstances surrounding these allegations.
Te Pāti Māori's Takutai Tash Kemp was the chief executive of Manurewa Marae before she won the Tamaki Makaurau seat last year by just 42 votes. 4 whistleblowers who used to work.
I think that's a part of it, isn't it? It was such a tight race. If there's a way that they can show, you know, literally 50 votes were changed, that's an election. So I think that's probably a part of it, because it was so, like if she had won by 8,000 votes, maybe we wouldn't be having this today, but because it was 42, then yeah.
At the Marae told News Hub last week they mixed campaign material with official census documents.
We hugely advocated for her by using the resources that we had. That was our job. That's what she asked us to do.
2 of the former staff also admitted copying personal census data into a Waiparaira Trust database. The trust is run by John Tamahiri, who is also the Te Pāti Māori president.
How many of those transfers did you do?
Well over 700.
The whistleblowers called for a public inquiry. Tamahiri last week said Te Pāti Māori would also welcome an investigation and called the allegations frivolous.
In fairness to all parties involved, if there's no truth to these allegations, that needs to be surfaced too. And if there is, we need to understand that as well and go forward from there.
A separate complaint has been laid with police in which Labour alleges a phone number it believes is owned by the Waiparaira Trust sent campaign texts for Te Pāti Māori without a promoter statement. It also claims the texts were sent to phone numbers the Trust collected during a COVID vaccination program. Luxon would not say how much the inquiry might cost.
As this is not a cost issue, this is a principled issue, which is about making sure that New Zealand people can have great trust and confidence in their institutions.
A number of government agencies, including police and Stats NZ, have already announced their own investigations. But the Prime Minister says having an overarching independent inquiry is crucial.
Okay, Zane, has there been
actually, no, we'll have a listen.
Te Pāti Māori tonight?
Well, it was quite interesting during the press conference that the Prime Minister admitted that he hadn't given Te Pāti Māori a heads up about this new inquiry. So essentially the party was learning about it at the same time that we were. Christopher Luxon said everything moved quite quickly today, and he just said he didn't feel a responsibility to let the party know. I reached out to the party after the announcement was made, but I haven't heard back from them yet. Also, their social media channels are quiet about this issue. But it's worth noting that last week, John Tamahiri said he actually welcomed an investigation into the allegations against the party to, quote, prove our innocence.
Okay.
Yeah, so there you go. It's one of these ones, isn't it, that someone in the chat has said, and sorry, I didn't start, I said, this is bad, or this is whatever, and it's like, I guess if it's all proven to be the case, it is, you know. It'll be interesting to see what comes of it. I also, you know, John Tamahiri going, we welcome it. You don't really pay much credence to that kind of conversation, because anyone says that when they're accused of something, because you do, if there is some ongoings, you have to put up the false bravado, and if there is no ongoings, then you say it anyway. So anyone in the position either way would be like, yep, bring it on, we want to see it. You're not going to come out going, I really don't think you guys should have one, because either innocent or guilt or whatever. That'll be it. So I'm quite intrigued as to what not why this is potentially bad, but what advantage it gained to Pāti Māori as well. Like, have they done something technically wrong that really didn't gain them an advantage? Have they done something allegedly wrong that also gained them an advantage? What kind of advantage did it gain them, and how did that impact the election? That's sort of what I'd like to try and hear out of this thing. There is an accusation in the chat. I will put it up, and I will also say no knowledge of this. Accusation from a, and sorry, Adam, I'm calling you a rando because you can put any name up there you want in there. But so this is someone's honest held belief. We have no validity to this at the moment yet. But Adam says 4 whistleblowers are all from Destiny Church. Now, if that was the case, that adds another angle to the whole thing as well. We don't know that that's the case, but I guess going off the back of Adam's message, where are the whistleblowers from? Is there a conflict of interest there as well? So there's a lot of unknowns yet, Chewy, that we're all kind of going, well, maybe this, maybe that, could be this, could be that. But what are your thoughts, bro?
Yeah. Look, I think Tamahiri saying we welcome the thing, as you said, look, it might be the only thing that he can say, but I think in this case it is the right thing for him to say.
Yeah.
You know, okay, this is going to fucking ruin people's nights. I actually agree with Luxon here. I think it is. I think it is a principle of the thing sort of thing. I think there should be an investigation. I think today or this weekend we've had 3 things that really need to be looked into. You know, you've had the police announce that there's an investigation into National's candidate for New Plymouth, I think it is, with this 178,000. I lost it down the back of the seat, back of the couch cushions campaign donations. That one there. You've got the revelations about, and this shocked me. Okay, get this, the party for selfish, rich assholes that only want to look after themselves. ACT may have a really bad internal culture, and some people aren't happy with that. That's shocking. So I mean, I love that now the election's out. Now we're getting all of this out.
What about this one? Did you hear it? This one today as well. This one today as well. Nick Mills. This is the guy from News Talk. Says this.
Yes.
National MP Tim Costley is taking taxpayers for a ride. Do you want to hear it? This is so News Talk has a breakout show in Wellington that goes from like 9 in the morning to midday, so it's Wellington only. This is what the host said there about this as well.
Here's a story that you may be going to enjoy. That's if you're not one of the people of the government that's made redundant. Otaki MP Tim Costley.
That will be Otaki.
He was on the show with Adam Cooper last week. He's a well-known name in Kapiti. By the way, he owns a $1.4 million riverside home in Waikanae, 2 rental properties in Palmerston North, and a flat in Wellington. Hasn't he done well, following under the footsteps of the great leader, his great leader? 4 properties. And he looks only about, 40. He's very young. Well, Tim is claiming $36,000 a year from parliamentary housing allowance for his own apartment, despite his family home being just 58 kilometres away from Parliament. He lives in Waikanae. But even with Transmission Gully, it's too much of a commute for him.
So there's a brand new motorway to make it easier to get from the Kapiti coast to Wellington. It's 58 k's. It would take him, 40 minutes to get to work. He's taking $36,000 a month. That he's entitled to, Mr. Luxon. Sorry, $36,000 a year. Did I say a month? Yep. A year that he's entitled to, rather than driving 40 to 50 minutes home. So, look, again, I don't want to dissuade away from what we're just talking about, but you brought up other examples of things coming out, and there's one of the things at the minute.
Look,
we are still talking about
if Luxon wants to talk about the principle of the thing being more important, then let's fucking have at it. Like, he got caught on this apartment thing. Now this guy laughably called Costly has been caught on it. MPs keep on getting caught out on it. If it keeps fucking happening, does that mean that something should be done about it? That if we're talking about cutting costs so much that hundreds and thousands of people are losing their jobs, does it mean that maybe we need to tighten up on the rules of whether the drive home is too much? Or maybe you can, like when you own an apartment freehold in town that you bought before you're an MP, you could just stay there.
Do you think there's a case to be heard to pay our MPs more and then just cut all the benefits, all the things they can apply for? So up their salaries by 30, 40, 50 grand, whatever. And then they pay for their own fuel. They pay for their own accommodation. They pay for,
I see where you're going
is there
with
a case for that?
I honestly don't know what pitfalls would be there. I absolutely see what you're saying. I just think when it is something that you have to account for and that sort of thing? I don't know. Is it part of the perks package? There's definitely parts of the perks package I think should go. Like there's free travel and all sorts of stuff.
I wonder
after
if-
you're doing that job.
I wonder if Mr. Costley's salary was 40 grand more, but he didn't get this perk. Do you think he'd be driving home every night, or do you think he'd be trying to buy an apartment and have a mortgage and pay it out of his wages?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I honestly don't have an answer for it. But what I do have an answer for is that like they talk about this rule of like if you live outside of the area, and then they don't give you a definition of what that area is.
Yep.
And I think the definition of that area should be the Greater Wellington region. You know, Kapiti would definitely come within that. Upper and Lower Hutt definitely within that. Metropolitan Wellington definitely within that. And if you have to get a plane to come to work, then you are outside of the area, and,
Well,
and you can get some taxpayer money for a flat.
Mind you, I think Debbie Naruapaka drives up towards Taranaki after her weekend, so maybe a kilometerage would be the way to do it. There's a really important question in the chat as well from Alex Chewy. When is the BHN party being founded? I would like some help with the mortgage. There you go.
I'd love to have an apartment in Central Wellington.
Yeah. All right, a couple other messages that have come through as well. Super chat from David. Thank you for the super chat. Super uncomfortable with Luxon launching an independent investigation into Te Pāti Māori. He's already demonstrated that what he means by independent is give me a predetermined outcome. Yeah, I guess the KO one, the Kāinga Ora one, is the one that comes to mind, where it wasn't Luxon's words, but Bishop was talking about it to Bill English and said, fully independent, no involvement from Kāinga Ora. So that was his definition of independence. So following on from that, there'll be no involvement from Te Pāti Māori in the investigation into the ongoings of Te Pāti Māori. Jackson Media, thanks for the super chat, says, Paula benefit doing the independent inquiry? Question mark at the end. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I wonder, actually, that's a good point. I wonder who Chris Bishop got a text from last week about this and suggested an inquiry, who he said straight away to, yes, let's do that. I wonder, maybe it was Joyce, maybe, I don't know, someone. Who do you reckon it was? We should have a little wager going on who it was going to be. I wonder though.
Who haven't we seen for a while?
Yeah.
There's a couple of comments to it as well as far as like funding MPs, just increasing their wages. That would disadvantage Māori MPs due to the bigger area that they have to do, and I would, the bigger electorates the further away. That doesn't work for them.
Yeah.
And certainly as far as the Māori electorates as well, that's one of them's the entirety of the South Island, so that probably wouldn't work. But yeah, my thing is this problem. Like if a problem keeps happening, they do something to fix the problem.
Yeah.
And I think they do need some more specificity and to say, okay, if you need to rent a place, or you like but you have to rent a place and you have to be in there, you have to live there, sort of thing. And then when you're not an MP, it's gone. If you bought it yourself, fine, we'll help out with rates or something like that. But if you own it freehold, no, there's no way.
What about, there's 3,900 empty state houses around the country at the moment. Why can't an MP just use a state house?
I already solved this, Pat.
Oh, sorry.
Do you remember my suggestion that we build an apartment block for MPs that live out of the region with shared cooking facilities? They all have to live together, and we have cameras, and like it's a Big Brother house, but for MPs, because they're on our dollar. Like, it solves that problem. We don't have any dodginess. It's paid for. It's a long trek home after a big long week at the Parliament. You can just go up to your apartment. Job done. We just have to build an apartment building.
And you could also then rent it out. Like if there was 120 apartments, but only 40 MPs that night, you could rent them out. You could have like
so there's homeless in there.
Yeah, something like that. Anthony says,
and then if it's not going very well, then we can have a sudden elimination, like like we can set them tasks. Like I'm sorry, Seymour being voted out for your lackluster twerking. You've got to do the dishes tonight.
Anthony says stealing census data and COVID data is bad in a fundamental way, so we should be clear about that. Yeah, I mean we agree.
Look,
so we're clear. The accusation of that, if it was a reality, is bad, and it should be sorted out. It also needs to be sorted out if something like that happened. Who was ultimately responsible for it? Like, could it be one person off their own bat? Is it a systemic problem within a group? That's also an important part to play in this. And hoping that there isn't, he said independent, and I know we all kind of go, but if it is independent, it should be able to look at it in sort of a bipartisan sort of a way, a non-biased sort of way to come out with what's the conclusion from this. Should there be some dodgy ongoings, which we will find out about.
But this is the thing, is that he's poisoned through his own actions the words independent inquiry.
Yeah.
Like, again, just not thinking forward enough to go, well, if I call this an independent inquiry and I get Bill English to do it, have I ruined everything in the future when I call for an independent inquiry? Which we have, because we've been making jokes about it.
Yeah.
And I think, like, quite apart from the election consequences of this, one of the things about the Privacy Act in New Zealand and keeping people's personal data is that you must collect it for a specific purpose and use it for no other. Yeah. If I did something like that at work, I'd be gone, and I'd have a massive fine as well. It brings the organisation into massive disrepute and that sort of thing. And that's without it being an election issue. Yeah. So, look, I think it is important, and there'll be people poo-pooing it and people going, oh, the other political parties are just making hay. I think it is 100% appropriate for there to be an inquiry. We may quibble around the fact of Luxon calling it independent when he's done stuff like that before. We may doubt Tamahiri's authenticity of welcoming it. But, like, if we play it all on a straight bat, I think it's deserved.
I think you're right. And the thing that we always say, not to be kind of too school kiddish here, but if this was the opposite way and these accusations were made towards ACT or something, no one, man, I can't say no one, most people watching right now, if you're a little bit kind of on the nose that this is a bit much, but if it was the opposite, if it was the ACT party, imagine if it was the ACT party and Luxon did the opposite, nothing to see here. We would be up in arms about an investigation.
Yeah.
And we got to play each ball on its merits. There's been an accusation. The accusation needs to be investigated, and there needs to be a conclusion. And once we get the conclusion, we'll know more about what it's all about.
I want Te Pāti Māori to prove that they're squeaky fucking clean on this. So they can go, yes, we had this phenomenal election result with no question marks or anything about it. Yeah. And if it is wrong, then I want that person gone.
Yeah. And whoever is responsible for it held responsible. I'm just looking through last week's clips because we did talk to Chippy about this last week. I'm wondering if it's worth me grabbing it up or not. I can't find the clip.
Talking about Chippy, just while you're looking at it, did you notice he was in Dunedin?
No, snob. Whatever.
He didn't even mention he was coming down. And he went to Dunedin's best fish and chip shop, but he did not go to Pearl Dive and get the shiny fella.
Naughty. I can't
rookie unforced error there.
Yeah,
so yeah.
Hey, let's have a look. Unless there's anything else you need to add to that, anything else from the chat or anything. But I want to get to this Yahoo story.
No.
It's pretty massive.
Yes.
Let's get to this, shall we? Now, when I make this full screen, it might start playing straight away. This is from TVNZ tonight.
Political turmoil in Israel has cast further doubt on the likelihood of a US-led ceasefire deal, with a key member of Benjamin Netanyahu's war cabinet quitting. There's also growing condemnation of an Israeli raid to rescue 4 hostages in which hundreds of Gazans were killed. Our US correspondent Logan Church reports.
one of Israel's wartime leaders calling it quits and condemning the Israeli Prime Minister.
That's huge. That's what I'm saying. This is one of the biggest news stories in the world. This conflict, if indeed you can call it that, this attack, this genocide, this flattening of a civilization, is the biggest news story in the world still. And this is the biggest news headline to come out of that story in several. This guy he's embedded with this plan. He's embedded with the desire to flatten Gaza. I mean, I only say that based on the fact he's been there for so long. I mean, 6 weeks ago, he could have gone, well, this is a bit much for me. I think I'm out of here. He's been in the war room. He's been a part of this. And for him, Chewy, it's just got to the point where he's gone, hey, fellas, I think enough is enough. So it's a really interesting time. Really interesting.
Regrettably, Netanyahu is preventing us from advancing toward true victory.
Damaging words from Benny Gantz, who, until today, was part of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's war cabinet and his emergency coalition government. But cracks recently appeared as Gantz demanded Netanyahu come up with a plan for post-war Gaza. That didn't happen.
So Netanyahu cannot see beyond flattening Gaza. Hey, Netanyahu, hey, boss, hey, friend, what's happening after that? I don't know. Plan A, flatten Gaza. And after that?
It's free real estate.
Free real estate.
Beachfront property always sells well.
Yeah, all right.
Gantz is a popular politician and seen as a potential prime minister, as Netanyahu's own popularity falls.
I believe that he's doing what he thinks is best for the country.
I think maybe it can be a positive thing.
I believe we should be united and should be staying strong.
Netanyahu ran on the title Mr. Security. Gantz is a figure of security. The national security leadership of Israel is lining up behind Gantz and saying, with him gone, it's really time for some accountability on what happened October 7th.
This comes a day after Israel launched a successful rescue mission of 4 hostages.
That word successful is carrying a lot of water.
Yeah, successful? I have a lot of criticism of the media with the reporting of this story.
Successful. We'll see how successful it is.
Hostages held by Hamas, which the Israeli Defense Force released more footage of today. But the mission resulted in large numbers of Palestinian casualties.
How many?
Children. The US is trying to get
Hamas
to agree to a ceasefire deal that's already on the table. But today, US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said it was hard to say whether any hostage rescue attempt would impede efforts to get a deal across the line.
We see individual instances that we have spoken out about, where we would like to see them operate differently, where we would like them to be more precise, more targeted in their operations.
The US Secretary of State is expected to land in the region in the coming days in an effort to try and broker a deal. Not an easy task as the violence continues.
There you go. Now, you said you've been looking at this through the weekend, Shirley. Have at it, sir.
Major headline: successful Israeli raid rescues 4 hostages. Major details left out of that. 210 civilian casualties.
Yeah, wow.
Over half of them children. They used artillery, aerial bombardment, and a commando raid that was put on shore from the emergency aid jetty that the Americans built. They delivered those commandos in the back of an aid truck to the strike zone. That is despicable, and I think just absolutely underlines the whole thing that we've had around this latest kerfuffle in the area. The value that they will put on Israeli lives versus the piles of dead civilian children that the Israelis are willing to stack up to achieve victory.
Yeah.
And it's very clear to me that the victory is a parking lot that they can do whatever they want with. 2
things, yeah. What you've just described is a war crime, right?
Absolutely.
Civilians, using, because you're not allowed to use a medical kind of, vehicle or something to sneak in, sort of thing. So I would think it would be the same about aid vehicles. War crime. The other thing is, I know we're looking at Benny Gantz at the moment thinking, whoa, you know, maybe he's doing the right thing. To me, he comes across as a bit of a Liz Cheney. You know, Liz Cheney's voting record in America was abysmal. Voted every time with Trump. Supported the regime of Trump all the way through, rebelled against the person who was Trump. I don't think because it seems that Benny Gantz has been around for a good long while, we should be jumping up and down going, a good guy in the cabinet. No, maybe there's been a falling out, maybe it's a personal thing. We just don't want to give him credit for being kind of the one voice of sanity when, okay, so he's gone out now and he's gone this. So he's not actually saying Israel did the wrong thing or Netanyahu did the wrong thing. He's actually saying Netanyahu hasn't given a good structural direction for where. So what this is probably more of a coup than it is someone finding their morality, because he's now saying that they haven't found a space, they haven't found a way forward. Meaning the next message from him will be, I've got a way forward, and that'll be where it comes from.
It strikes me as a man positioning himself. You know, it doesn't strike me as someone that has just gone, this is too much blood and horror and I can't be part of it. I think his statement would be very different in that case. At this point, he's saying that Netanyahu's major failing is he has no clear path to victory. So this guy still thinks he has a path to victory here. It's not personal accountability. It is him positioning himself to be potentially the next prime minister, the next leader, as he sees Netanyahu's popularity plummet. It's a tactical move from him.
So let's just be careful not to sing his praises too much. When I keep talking about it's the biggest news story, I think fraction or a crack in that war room is big news. And I guess if getting rid of Netanyahu would be a step, but then again, you're always got to remember that thing. It's like Chewy kept talking about through the election, change doesn't mean good change. You know, what if, like they always talk about Ron DeSantis being like Trump with a brain. Everyone's like, let's not get Trump. Someone like DeSantis. But that might be worse, because now that this authoritarian fascistic, fascist aligned vibe is coming through the Republicans, then someone with an actual brain may be able to get in there and make it even worse. They might actually be able to use that setup to be worse. So I'm not saying this again to say we shouldn't get a Netanyahu, but the caveat is always, the grass is always greener. Now, does it end up being greener? We don't know that until the change has been made, but just be aware that this guy is not necessarily one of the good ones. He's one of the people who have said one thing once, it seems like, Chewy.
Yeah, before we move away from talking about Israel, I don't know if you can see the clip that I've got queued up there.
Not really.
I saw this clip over the weekend of this absolutely fantastic interaction between an Israeli spokesperson and a news presenter from, I believe, an Indian news outlet, where the Israeli spokesperson comes in hot about the color of the sari that the host is wearing, and I just want to play this because it is spectacular how on a couple of things, how poorly controlled the Israeli spokesperson is, and just how competently he is put in his place by this presenter.
Decide where you sit and where you stand, and I can see the colors that you are wearing this evening, and that's why I am purposely wearing blue and white, because with all due respect to the green, the red, and the black that you have purposely put on this evening, blue and white will always prevail.
Let's not divide colors on the basis of religion. It sometimes happens in my country as well. Let's not do that. Also, to tell you, Frederick, the garment I'm wearing is a sari, and it's my grandmother's. If she was alive, she would have been about 105 years old today. She didn't know what his Israel-Hamas conflict was, and this sari in no way signifies any support for any side. What has happened in Gaza, the bombing of the hospital, 5 people dead, is simply criminal. What I'm wearing right now is simply my grandmother's sari. It signifies nothing else. Frederick, I will not let you choose what I wear, and I will not let you choose what I say. I will say what I have to say, and I will speak the truth the way I see it. Truth, of course, has many versions. There is one version coming from Israel, and there's another version coming from Gaza. We've put both out. That is our journalistic duty, Frederick.
Yeah, that's.
I just thought that was a fantastic clip. I love how casually she kind of mentions that the Sari is older than Israel is. So there's that. But I just found that interesting, like from a public relations point of view, you're going on a TV show to defend Israel, to come in that fucking hot. It's just, what school of public relations did that guy go to?
Your clothes offend me, says Tom Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting, actually. In fact, there's been quite a few of those. I think even our beloved Piers Morgan had a really good crack at an IDF spokesperson the other day. So
Yes,
they've been popping up on
twice,
my feed.
actually,
Yeah.
2 separate occasions.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't got those clips lined up, but basically from my memory is he was just hammering them for an answer of how many civilian casualties are too much and how many are acceptable. It was an absolute, like, there is no way to answer that question.
Yeah.
So he was really setting them up. But it's like, Piers Morgan is a horrible person.
He's a very good interviewer, though. I mean, you're allowed to say that's like I've always said that Leighton Smith is the yardstick for talkback. As a talkback host, he is the best this country's ever seen. Doesn't mean I like his politics, but you can actually take a step back. Piers Morgan actually can be a very good interviewer when he wants to be. He just believes his head is full of lard. That's the problem with his ideas. But his skill at being an interviewer is okay.
And you can certainly, you know, it's like, just because he's got it right on now, finally, and on this particular topic, doesn't mean that he's right all the time. And nor should you ever look at someone and go, this person is right all the time. Like, it's a quick trip to a hiding.
I'm leaving it to you because you started, but you got to put Tafari's message up. That was brilliant.
I absolutely love this comment of the night. Sorry, not sorry. Absolutely fantastic.
If that's just brought up just now by you, Tafari, you are a incredibly gifted human being, far funnier than anyone else up here and cleverer at the same time. If it's someone else's you saw it and you're using it, more power to you. Right, there's another text as well. It's a bit sort of bit off the topic to some other things we've talked about. Question: making housing people with a child a priority, is this discrimination to people without a children? Question: I guess, see, there's no, you got to use correct grammar, guys. I'll try it again. Question, making housing people, so housing is the verb, putting them in a house, making housing people with children a priority, probably full stop. Is this discrimination to people without children? Question mark.
I think it's, I think when you're talking about the word discrimination, it depends if it's with, it is about need. Like, it is a discrimination because you are looking at someone and going, this person has more need than the other person. And I think in that case, the person with the most need is the child. And yeah, that doesn't help the childless person with no house. There's no getting around with that. The correct answer is we need to build enough houses for everyone.
Yeah.
And we're not there yet. But when we aren't there, I think it is. I think it would be right as a childless person that children need housing before I do.
Yeah,
if I was in that position,
because you already look basically homeless, like it's your vibe. So
thank you.
Very good.
I'm a man of the people.
Conrad McBad. It sounds like, what was that movie? McNuggets or whatever. It was a Seth Rogen movie. They're one of their first ones. I can't remember.
McNuggets.
Okay. Can you remember his name? Hey?
McLovin.
I was close.
From the movie Superbad. No, you were not close.
I was close because I'm loving me some McNuggets. Right. Conrad McBad. How short do National think our attention span is? Very short. Michelle Bogue leaked COVID data to Hamish Walker while she was campaigning for Nikki K. That's a very good point.
That's a very good point.
Very good point.
I had forgotten about that one.
Mr. McBad. All right. Let's move on to our feature story of the night. looking at the time. Conversations this morning on breakfast between Chloe Swarbrick and Shane Jones. Many people seem to be calling him Shame Jones. That seems to have stuck. It's quite clever. And they were talking about, I guess, climate in general, but also looking at the marches over the weekend. Now, we haven't really talked about the marches over the weekend for climate, but this is all incorporated into this conversation, so this is the time to get to it. The beautiful part about this conversation was Shame Jones wasn't there for the first half of it, and it was just all Chloe.
Phenomenal question, Daniel. So this is one of the many...
Sorry, I should have probably said what the question was. They're addressing, what do we do about addressing the current energy security issues? In other words, we get told a lot that if we don't have enough oil or enough fuel, there's an energy security that we then become insecure. So that's the question that's been asked.
Lines that those who have been lobbying for the fossil fuel sector have been using for a really long time now. If we're talking meaningfully about energy security, then we need to be investing in renewables. Here in Aotearoa, approximately only 2% of households have solar panels on their roofs. In Australia, it's 30%. And if we had that equivalent, we could shut down the Huntly Power Station tomorrow. The Greens went to the election campaign in 2023 with our clean power payment policy, showcasing how we could do precisely this by using actually funds from the emissions trading scheme from our biggest polluters in this country to pay for decarbonising our households and ultimately actually also reducing energy bills.
So there is one small gap in the conversation. I think Chloe does cover it off because there is a lag, right? Because what Chloe is talking about is 30% of the households being covered in solar panel, and currently there's 2. You're not going to have 30% tomorrow, so we're not cancelling the Huntly Power Station tomorrow. So the conversation we also have to have, and I do think in the next clip, Chloe kind of covers off on it a little bit, is the movement towards this. And the question therefore is, we can't turn off the fossil fuels today, but what is the path to get to 30% whilst we're turning it off? And I actually don't think anyone really is having that conversation. So in other words, the way that electricity grid's working right now, the electricity generation is working right now, does need to continue. What this government is doing, which is wrong, is they're now offering, oil and gas contracts around the world that might last 30 years. Now, on one hand, coming up to the election, Luxon was talking about short term. And I remember you and me talking about this, Chewy. There is no company in the world that's going to look for a short term return on the investment into gas or oil, right? So they're looking for a long term return. So we're having it both ways. We're having, I guess, our people, the people that kind of agree, say we need to get to renewables as much as we can, but we have to acknowledge it's not tomorrow. So we need to have some kind of fade in and fade out at the same time, that cross over each other. But the government is saying, yeah, we're going to double the energy renewability production whilst opening up oil and gas fields to international companies who will want it for the long term. So there's lots of mixed messages here, Chewy.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, all of these guys should get their head around the stuff that we're staring down the barrel of scarcity and enormous price spikes, and just putting us at the whims of getting fuel from one place to another, all the way down here at the bottom of the world. I think when we're looking at the things that some parties want to acknowledge and some don't, building some energy resilience in this country should be a much, much higher priority. And you can sell it to people. You can go, look, it's going to lower your electricity bills. It's going to make you more resilient in a disaster.
Yeah,
I think, as much as I was a fan of the clean car discount and that sort of thing and getting more EVs on the road, what that money would have been better pointed at was getting solar panels on people's roofs, getting batteries into their homes, and that I am still to this day stunned that there is no legislation mandating solar panels on new builds. It's fucking mental.
Yeah,
we need to do that micro generation. So we in the bigger generation, but like I noticed that there's a wind farm and a solar farm all moving ahead here in the South Island. That's great, but we need to do that to build that supply, that resilience, and get rid of Huntly and put us less at the whims of the international situation.
Tell me, am I wrong? I understand that all of the South Island's power is renewable. Is that correct?
Yes, we export more power than we use. Technically, the national grid, it goes both ways, but my understanding is that there has never been a moment ever that there... Oh, no, I won't say never, because we did have the brownouts in the mid-90s when the hydro lakes were very low. Is that because Auckland's such a big black hole for power. This is why Huntly exists, is that they can spin it up in a short amount of time to cover those spikes in power usage. But yes, the hydro dams generate, I think it's more than 2/3 of New Zealand's power requirements.
Yep. Okay, so that's the conversation then goes on to address a little bit about the things we've just been talking about, because they're talking about what happens when there's a rapid movement to green or renewable energy. That's what they've got to say.
Critics argue, Chloe, that transition too quickly to renewables could lead to higher energy costs and instability. So how do you propose to balance rapid decarbonisation with ensuring affordable and reliable energy for New Zealanders?
Well, again, I'd just say look at the data, look to the experts and look to the evidence, which shows that, in fact, renewables, especially if paired with investment in battery and storage, actually is ultimately cheaper for households, but also improves that energy security as well.
Yeah, but that doesn't quite answer the question yet, because it's still a long-term vision. 30% of the households long term. So what would the we all agree. I agree with what Chloe was saying. I've always said if I ever built a house, I'd want to put solar panels on the roof, and I'd probably want to sink a tank in the ground as well for some water security, should I want that as well. But this is one of the moments where we love Chloe's research in that, but I want to hear a real answer as to what is the result. Like, how do we do this and move rapidly? The research is good, but give us some tangible things that are as like a meat axe like me can understand as well.
As saving our planet in the long run. But this is actually a point that I would put to the government, because they are talking out both sides of their mouth here. They went to the election, and as I understand it, their policy is still in place to double renewable energy generation in this country. Yet on the other side, they also want to reopen oil and gas drilling. Those two things are fundamentally inconsistent, least of all with commitments that we made internationally at the COP just last year in November to triple renewable energy generation across the world.
We heard the Minister over the weekend saying that 5 million people want to keep the lights on, but yet we see tens of thousands of people protesting over the weekend. Is he reading the room correctly, do you think?
Those two things are not inconsistent. For a really long time now, the majority of our electricity generation has already come from renewables, but investment in renewables has stalled because the incentives have been wrong in the way that we have set up the economy around electricity generation. And I'd also make the point that the government also cut initiatives for efficiency of energy in the most recent budget as well. So these things simply do not add up. And to put it to you another way, Daniel, look, the government's telling us that they don't care about the climate, they don't care about the environment, they don't care about the future, they don't really care about our international agreements. You'd think maybe they would care about the economic prospects here, yet faced with the economic opportunity in renewables, they're effectively deciding to say that in an age of Netflix, they want to back DVDs and Blu-ray.
That's a good line. That's a good line. Credit where credit's due. I'm also thinking, Joey, maybe you can tell me to pull my head in, but the messaging needs to be, Chloe is great at having all the information in her head. I'd like to deliver it to me in a bit more of a meat-axe way. We talked last week about Tuku Morgan talking on the 30 program with Guy and Espita, and he talked about Māori rights being different from non-Māori rights. And then he said, under the treaty. And so, of course, what has happened, and we said this would happen, didn't we, is Hobson's Pledge has clipped that, and it doesn't say the words under the treaty at the end. It just says Māori rights are different from other people's rights. Finish of the clip. So we do need to think and be careful about messaging, because all that's going to now do. In fact, I can't remember where I sent you the clip, Joey. I can't remember where I saw it, but on that Twitter feed, it's all just like, elite Māori. Oh, sorry, I pronounced that incorrectly. Elite Maori and that kind of stuff all the way down. So it just feeds into that.
Yeah, it was so predictable.
Yeah, it's really unfair, because we should be allowed to be clear with our communication, and we should expect honest actors on the other side not to clip it. But I I want to hear information given to me. I'm a moron, right? I need moronic conversation. Talk to me like I'm a 9-year-old boy, because that's normally how I'm acting anyway. And I still don't have a clear answer from Chloe about how we're going to get there and how we're going to move rapidly into it, other than when the need to move rapidly. You know what I mean? There's just there's a part of the equation missing for me to be able to put full weight behind that. Yes, we want to move there quickly. How?
Yeah.
Not quite. I don't quite know yet.
So what I see you saying there is like Chloe's really good at describing the place that we need to get to.
Yep.
And some of the mechanics of how to get there, but not all of the mechanics.
Well,
like
she might be. She might. No. Let's give her credit. She might be fucking fantastic at explaining it. Just in that clip, we haven't quite got there. She might have it exactly written down. I'm not. No discredit whatsoever.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. Yeah. It's a two-phase thing, right? You need the bigger generation. So like the solar farm, I think it's something like 30 megawatts of solar generation is being built in the Mackenzie country in the South Island. There's also a very big wind farm being built in Southland. Those are the sort of things that are important from a national grid point of view. And then the other aspect of it is what I spoke about, the micro generation, the getting solar, the individual solutions, people storing their own energy is a big part of the problem, big part of the solution of what we're looking for. Like, we have an enormous amount of electricity generation from the South Island, from our hydro dam schemes. Like, when we talk about the think big projects of the 80s that almost bankrupted the country, like, and Marsden Point was one of them, and it was all about energy production in the 80s. So although that almost bankrupted the country, we've been living off that for decades now. It was a good call. And I love pointing out the fact, and I saw this in the news end of last week, at TY Point, the aluminium smelter. We've given Rio Tinto another bribe to stay on, because we want those jobs there. Those jobs those bribes are just billions of carbon credits for them to stay in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that whole aluminium smelter is plugged into a hydro dam of its own that isn't connected to the national grid. So we've made a choice there, haven't we? Successive governments have made a choice that those jobs at the Rio Tinto plant in TY are more important than adding that hydro dam into the national grid, as an example.
Something interesting actually about that. I'm just looking it up. There's about 1,000 full-time equivalent employees and contractors that work at the smelter. About 1,000. I don't want to see anyone lose their job, but when this government is so keen to cut the number of jobs around the place, tens of thousands perhaps, certainly multiple thousands, I wonder what it is that they're so desperate to protect 1,000.
Oh, I can tell you. That's 1,000 jobs out of Invercargill and Bluff.
Right.
Those are not good places. They're like not big places that would gut those towns. And I think there is an aspect of it of like, yes,
Rural
we
New
do
Zealand.
need to think about that. Like when we look at again in the late 80s when these rapid changes, when you had forestry jobs go and freezing works jobs go, and you absolutely cut the hearts out of towns to the point where they took decades to come back. Hopefully we learned those lessons from that. I'm not a fan of Rio Tinto. I am a fan of 1,000 people in Southland having jobs to provide for their family, but maybe there is a point where we transition that to a different job.
Isn't it interesting, though, that the government of kind of free market ideologues are not letting the free market decide that particular situation or others?
Oh, absolutely. Like, every time the contract comes up for TY, it comes out, oh, we're pulling out, all of these jobs are on the line. And then the government swoops in because that's the bargaining chip, right? The government wants to keep 1,000 jobs going in Southland. Rio Tinto know that. So they use that to put the government over a barrel to get carbon carbon credits.
All right. Do you think that Shane Jones possibly is a furry in his private life?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I just wonder, because he is so very, very keen to talk about unicorn kisses. He talks about it a lot. And in the 6 minutes he was on this morning on breakfast, of which probably half the time was his, he probably mentioned unicorn kisses 3, maybe 4 times. And something just says in my head, when someone says it that many times, maybe there's something more going on to this messaging. Here's a part of the conversation when the minister joined in, where they were talking about 20% of our current electricity usage relies on gas.
Oh, look, the reality is 20% of the current energy electricity system depends on gas. We destroyed our sovereign risk profile with that unwise, shallow decision of 5 or 6 years ago. We're going to go ahead with changing the law. Oil and gas exploration, if we can entice further investment into the sector, is going to build resilience. We can't get any more sun and wind within a short period of time unless we pass the fast track, which sadly was opposed by the Lotus Eaters yesterday over the weekend in Queen Street.
But Minister, given the urgent need to combat climate change, how can you defend the reversal of the oil and gas exploration ban when it directly contradicts New Zealand's international climate commitments?
New Zealand is at an inflection point. Do you want the lights to stay on? So if you do you want to use natural gas, an indigenous resource, or do you want to rely on Indonesian coal?
An indigenous resource.
As we speak. The power you and I take for granted every day is now being created by Indonesian coal. It's not being created by unicorn kisses, as the Green Party would have you believe.
Yeah, there's one. So that's a good freeze frame as we get back to Clovis Warbrick. So he said that 20% is dependent on gas. So, of course, what does that mean, Chewy? It means there's another 80% to make up the conversation. And that's pretty much where Chloe goes straight to.
Look, the Minister himself has just admitted that 80% of our electricity generation comes already from renewables. He is inherently recognising that we already have that reliance and therefore that there is the potential to expand it. In addition to that, he repeated misinformation when it comes to the Indonesian coal. Those coal exports are at a 30-year low as of metrics from last year. But on top of that, actually, the majority of the coal that we produce in this country cannot be used at Huntly Power Station. It is a different grade of coal. And he's also using that in order to rationalise more oil and gas drilling. These things do not add up. It is not a rational argument. So again, I'd make the point that only 2% of households in this country have rooftop solar panels at the moment. If we were to meaningfully incentivise, like they do in Australia, where they have 30% of their homes with rooftop solar, we could close Huntly tomorrow. That would result in more energy resilience, but also in cheaper power bills for New Zealanders across this country. It's a win-win also for the climate.
Yes, true. I've got one more clip to play you, which is Chloe speaking directly to the minister. But before we get to that, is there anything you want to add in on?
Oh, Shane Jones is a blowhard that loves the sound of his own voice. He loves using $5 words to make him sound smarter than he actually is. I love the whole thing of like, oh, we're going to talk about Indonesian coal because I know that my New Zealand First voters are all racists. And then I'm going to mention an indigenous resource gas to make it sound like I'm doing something good for the country. Like, oil and gas drilling, like, these guys know that if these guys are, like, our current government are out in one term, then why would you bother investigating? Why would you come and drill here? Because the next government in is going to turf them back out again. And I think that very clearly needs to be stated by all of the opposition parties that they are coming for this. We have obligations. It is binding agreement to try and bring our emissions down. And we won't sacrifice our agricultural sector, which makes more money than oil and gas and mining ever fucking would. Like, it's the bedrock of our economy. But Shane Drill Jones thinks that we're going to strike it big on oil and gas. No, we're not going to make any money out of that. Those companies are going to bring in outside contractors and they're going to they're going to put us over a barrel and they're going to squeeze us for royalties. We are not going to be the Norway of the South Pacific and allow oil and gas exploration, but absolutely wring every dollar out of those companies for our own social programs and our own people. Absolutely, I have no faith in someone like Shane Jones being able to go toe to toe with a mining company to get those royalty concessions. Absolutely none. And Chloe quite rightly identifies that transitioning our energy industry is a win-win for everyone.
Yeah,
there is money to be made,
except for the people.
There is money to be.
Not for the companies who want to come in. There's not money to be made for them, and maybe that's a part of the conversation that I will allude to. That maybe there's something else behind it for some of these MPs. Maybe it's not a win-win for them in the form of donations and lobbying.
No. Shane Jones fucking corrupt as hell when it comes to the mining companies. He's not even bothering to hide it anymore. So yeah, it's not a win-win for Shane Jones.
It's a win-win for us.
And that is a win-win. That is a win for us. That
for us and the country.
That anything that disadvantages Shane Jones, I am all for. But look, with a developing industry like renewables, like making solar panels, like making batteries, there is money to be made. From a business point of view, being in an emerging market, it is a license to print money if you get it right.
Yep.
It is a win for the consumer because you are more resilient and you are saving money. And it is a win for the government because of those things and because it helps us hit our climate commitments that we have made. It's Shane Jones is an idiot. Just clip that part, put it on YouTube tomorrow.
So this is the last part I want to play you, and I've actually already taken a clip today and I've put it up on TikTok and stuff, so I'll play it to you off the TikTok because then you've got the actual words that come up with it. This is the part of the whole conversation where to me it seems very clear that if they haven't done it yet, they are loading up to break another promise. This national government promised to double the output of renewable energy. So in other words, to put investment in that would double the output. So however many kilowatts we're producing at the moment of renewable energy, this government promised to double that. And eventually Chloe got a chance to speak straight to Shane Jones and she asked him this.
Can I just ask a direct question to Minister Jones? Does the government still stand by its policy to double renewable electricity generation in this country?
Obviously, the government sees a mix and match. We'll have more gas, hopefully lessening our reliance on coal, but we are not going to rely on windy rhetoric or solar dreams.
Shane Jones knows his gas.
Without having a nation that generates solvency and hard-headed economic outcomes. End of story.
I will let the New Zealand public make up their own minds on that nonsense.
Shane Jones.
So there you go. And he got out his unicorn kisses again. I did also think maybe that the best place to find indigenous gas might be on the 9th floor of the Beehive after a big lunch in the cabinet room. They might get quite a good source of indigenous gas there.
I think the thing that strikes me the most about Shane Jones is when he goes on these big tears and the things that he's talking about and the way that he's talking about it. It's old. Like, these are the sort of comments that you would see in the late 80s or 90s about any green movement. You know, it's all about fairies and unicorn kisses and just all of this wishful thinking. And I think a lot of people are past that. Shane Jones has his fans. They probably carry around one of those little plastic pill dividers that you've got to take like 17 pills every day. That's how you tell you're in the Shane Jones fan club. What I'm saying is you're old.
The ones that are too young for Winston Peters, the 70 and the 80-year-olds that are too young for Winston. They're not rational
thinkers. They're going, oh, I love it because you're sticking it to the Greens. They're not listening to anything that's been saying, just like those same people haven't been listening to anything anybody who's been saying about the climate. And I tell you what, if you want to find out about the climate, maybe get in your motor car, which won't be an EV, head to the West Coast. Have a look for those glaciers that you used to go to when you were a kid. See where they're at now. Like, this is not something that's up for debate anymore, as far as I'm concerned. Like, when it comes to voting for this stuff, this is the number one thing for me, that they have to be serious about the climate. Now, all of the people that are voting for Shane Jones and cheering him on, they don't have to worry about the climate. Their time is running out, but they have grandkids, and their grandkids are going, this is fucking important to me. And those grandkids were probably at that enormous march in Auckland this weekend. Now,
very good.
That was up there as far as numbers.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of people. Some of the most just top shelf signs I saw. I'm going to put up this one that I saw just before we went on air. 5+ a day, eat the rich.
Yeah, I saw someone criticizing Marama for that, because she was holding it at one stage. Obviously, someone who had it got a photo with her and she held it up. Well, yeah, it's pretty funny.
No, like, if you've got a choice, you know, what's that guy from that shitty toy company that was in the news today, being New Zealand's richest person, the Mowbrays from Zuru?
Zoombri or something.
Yeah, so they were putting him up as this example.
The ones feeding a shit ton of money to independent right-wing media. Those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely damaging the democracy of this country. Absolutely damaging the planet with their shitty plastic toys that are just landfill bait. And they're putting his company up as this New Zealand success story when he's the founder, but he's not the owner. It's a Chinese company now making Chinese plastic shit. Like, the man's dreadful. So, like, if we had the option, like, what do you reckon has the most effect? Us sorting our recycling every week and putting it in the right bin on the side of the curb, or eating a billionaire every now and then? I reckon that the math on that is going to hold me up to be correct on this. There's no such thing as an ethical billionaire.
What's the fat content like on a billionaire?
Oh, well, depends on how you cook it. Maybe slow roasted.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah, like, people get caught up on this eat the rich. So I'm not encouraging necessarily cannibalism. But maybe if we eat their wealth, we spread it out. We don't have that obscene amount of wealth. Like, I was talking about this with a friend of mine the other day. Like, you know, if you were a billionaire, I couldn't even comprehend that amount of money for a couple of reasons. It's an enormous big number, and I'm not a good numberer. But the other part of it is, there's a point where you just run out of stuff to buy. And it's just ridiculous. And you get up and you fire up a news website and you look at something in the world that's horrible, and you look at this big pile of money that you've got, and you just go, I wonder if some of my money would help that. And these guys go, nah, I'm going to keep it.
Well, or they look at causes that may be detrimental, as we would see the world, to society, and they do fund it. That's the other thing as well.
Yep, so. Absolutely. No such thing as an ethical billionaire. I don't know. I don't care what causes they support. If he has $1 billion, not ethical.
Hey, it's been a lovely first show back, guys. First show back of the week, I should say. Haven't been anywhere. Peter says on the super chat, thank you for the super chat, I think Jones is doing this precisely because it angers the left. It's culture warrior vice signaling, virtue signaling, vice signaling, bullshit, says Peter.
Yeah, 100%.
Peter, appreciate that. Kenny's dad, Shane Jones is no match for Chloe on the super chat. Thank you for your super chat. Kenny's
to be fair, though, they're fighting different fights. Chloe is coming up with facts and reasoning, and Shane is coming up with fart noises and just really weird phraseology.
Unicorn kisses. Yeah. Nick says for a $5 super chat, thank you, sir. We need to make solar panels, battery tech, and green hydrogen in New Zealand to be self-sufficient in our pursuit. Green hydrogen meaning produced in a sustainable way as opposed to the colour, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Now, do you know what you need to make hydrogen?
Well, hydrogen, to make it, it's water, isn't it?
Salt,
and gas.
Well, water, but you can use salt water as well. You can harvest lithium from salt water in that.
But we don't have any salt water around us. Joey. What are you talking about?
It also takes a lot of electricity. So, say if we were funneling the entire output of a hydro dam towards one particular facility in the Southland region somewhere, wonder if you could repurpose that somehow. Energy resilience, an indigenous energy source, you say? Just a thought.
Mata Heaps says the terma in Nafa is expanding Capricorn farts. I don't really understand that, Joe. Do you understand that?
Not really.
Mata Heaps.
I feel like it's a clue that'll set us on a path to stealing the Declaration of Independence.
And look, to finish up for tonight, just our daily reminder from Mr. Alex to let people know who are located in Woburn area. There is a meeting being planned for July to raise awareness of the Cross Valley Link. A residents association is also planned. Just our daily notice board.
Just yeah.
Thank you for your super chat. All right. That's all of our stories done. And yes, you were right. It's gone past 90 minutes. Is there anything else?
The 90-minute hour remains supreme.
We will... There's lots going on at the moment. Yes, Troy, that sounded like a tangent all there for a second.
I just thought because, we like to talk about government submissions and stuff like that. Just want to see if anything is on the clock.
Is that I thought that's
you have this is your 3-day call to action, my friends.
Yep.
Where's it gone? Where is it gone? There it is. So they gave us a lot of time to react to this. Local Government Water Services Preliminary Arrangements Bill. Sounds very dry balls, doesn't it? For something talking about water. Look, this is about how local councils are going to be able to use their water assets going forward. A lot of people have read this submission and read between the lines a little bit and gone, this really leaves it open for the privatization of our water. This was the thing that one of the things that the key things that Three Waters was set up to prevent. The fact that local government can use their water assets to borrow against.
Yeah.
Which is a real backdoor way of getting to the fact that, well, you're selling me your water, aren't you? So submissions close 11:59 p.m. on Thursday. Do have a look around for what other people are saying about this. If you haven't made a submission, it is really easy. You can just put your plain thoughts on there. You don't need to be an expert. You don't need to be a lawyer or anything like that. Just write what you think, whether you think it's a good idea or not. I would suggest that anybody, even leaving a crack of a door open to the privatization of our water assets, is a disaster.
Yeah. Yep, very good. Well brought to our attention. Citizen Gold just wanted to remind us all for the day. Was it said that Seymour is the worst example of humanity? Well, I guess it's been
I haven't seen
now.
proof to suggest otherwise.
Yeah, haven't seen proof to suggest otherwise. All right, team. Been great to be with you, and I guess we'll catch you from tomorrow night.
Pick up the news, big Harry style, keeping it loose. News feeders, where the politics play, they bring the truth every single day. Talking about the mess all over the land. They shine a light with a mic in their hand. No time for cheese, just facts straight up. Plan and chew, never backing up. From the Cape to Bluff, no place too far. They expose the truth and raise the bar. Politicians tremble at their mighty voice. Pat and chew, they'll make the right choice.
Thanks for being with us tonight, team. If you want to support what we do, if you want to get behind us in a tangible way, like all these lovely people that you're seeing scrolling past you right now, you can head to patreon.com/big hairy news. And that's it for us tonight. We'll be back tomorrow night from 9 p.m. for another edition of Big Hairy News. Stay safe. Come back tomorrow night. Bring a friend. Be well. We'll catch you tomorrow night from 9 p.m. Anything else you want to say before we go, Chewy?
No, I'll just say, see you later, fam.
Hooroo. Join a union. Didn't say that tonight. Should we say it now? Join a union.
Join a union. Make a submission.
Email
your
submission.
MP.
Well done.